What's up? This is MC Lars. You are listening to Journey into Comics. You!
And here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Journey into Comics, a podcast about comic books, video games, movies, television, and everything nerd with your hosts, Nate Phillips and Brandon Stone.
You're gonna see some serious shit.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Welcome to another episode of Journey into Comics. I'm your host, Nate. As always, joining me, the Mark Bernardin to my Kevin Smith.
Oh,
Brando, how's it going?
it's going pretty good, my man. How are you?
Good. I'm glad to hear it's going well for you. We were just catching up a little bit off air. We decided we'd finally take this shit live. Today we are 138, Brando. We have reached the 138th podcast. That doesn't really mean much for most people, but I'm in a Misfits tribute band, so it's pretty fucking cool to me.
Yeah, this is the first episode that we have been back. Now, what does that mean? It's like, well, we haven't done a podcast since the Walking Dead finale review episode, and well, you and I haven't recorded one since then. Episodes went out all through the month of April with, chronicling our panels at LaFiCon, and so those episodes allowed us to take like a little bit of a breather and kind of step back, which we were doing such a good job of for quite a long period of time. I'm sure if anybody who has continuously listened to this show, all 138 episodes of Journey into Comics and the so-and-so episodes of the other ones that we do here as well, they'll know that there are periods of time, it seems like once every year, that since we started the show, we get ridiculously busy where we can't get together and do a show. And that happened last year, but like around August, September. And
yeah.
since then, it has been nonstop every week without question, a show. And then with LaFiCon, we got extra episodes out of that. Some more, we got a little time to take a breather, and I knew that was coming. I knew what we wanted to do for that, and so I also did extra episodes of the Game Addict show, and then so I just took the most of April off from podcasting, and you kind of did the same, and we just kind of lived our lives and focused our energies in different places, and it's now May. As we record this is May 6th. So it is time to hit this ground running once more. Get JIC back every week with new content. And, I missed it. I missed the weekly gathering. I missed the just let's spend an hour or two each week talking about whatever it is we randomly decide to talk about, if it's relevant or not. And really, it's something that I think that I didn't realize until we did take a break, is that something that I kind of needed every week to kind of decompress and get all my thoughts out, because I don't work with everybody. I don't work with people who have the exact same interests as I do. So it's like, to be able to get this out every week is good and healthy, and to not have that, it definitely highlighted that I missed it.
Man, I tell you, I actually said that when we first linked up. It was like, how do we do this? I forgot. I didn't really forget, but it was like, this is the longest I've probably been without podcasting since I started Journey into Comics, on the other side of my 3 months later, because there was that big gap where it was like the shittiest winter ever, and I couldn't get content out, and I wasn't even sure if I was going to do podcasting or if I would even be that good at it, and I mean, things just lined up how they lined up, dude. If I didn't take the 3-month break, our 100th episode wouldn't have been live at LaFiCon. It probably would have been like episode 100 wouldn't have been at Villains Con, and then we wouldn't have had 132 at LaFiCon. It would have moved everything around a bunch, but I agree with you in sharing the sentiment that I did miss podcasting a lot. In my time off, I spent a lot of time listening to podcasting, and just like taking in the being in the moment and the realization of how podcasts can just be better. And I really, man, there are only two guys in the game who I would call, well, okay, let me say, I don't really listen to this third person's podcast, but 2 out of the 3 people whose podcast I admire are the best when it comes to podcasting, in my humble opinion, and that's Joe Rogan and Kevin Smith, both separately as entities. They did do an episode recently, and actually have done several episodes in their podcasting worlds together, but they did do a show like late December of last year, and it was really good. It was like a 4-hour episode.
4 hours long.
Man, it's so good though. You get lost in it. You don't even realize that they're talking about all the different shit they're talking about, because they're just such good conversationalists that while they're going through it, it's just like they switch topics, boom, like that, and you're all of a sudden in fucking religion or whatever, and then you're all of a sudden in, you know, the animal kingdom, and you're just like, man, these guys are just great. But and then also obviously shout out to Adam Carolla, who has taken some notice in us, I guess, which is pretty cool. But like, he's just been doing it for so long. I think he's got the most podcast episodes under his belt of any professional podcaster, over 2,000, I do believe at this point.
Damn.
Which, I mean, think about that, Brando. We haven't even got to 200 yet.
Yeah.
Guys like Mad Scientist Party Hour just hit 300 this year. You know, people like Joe Rogan before next year will hit 1,000.
Yeah, well, and you know, and some podcasts don't last past 10. I mean, you know, there's definitely shows that they get started and then for one reason or another just kind of fizzle out or don't get, you know, other things come up with people. And that's just something that, you know, nothing is indeed forever, you know. All things do come to an end at some point. But
that's how time works.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, you know, that time is not, you know, anytime soon for our show. You know, assuming that we're both alive and still watching and reading and taking part in nerdy activities, this show won't do that. But
episode 4,000 of Journey into Comics, I'm going to be like a 98-year-old dude still talking about pops and comics.
Pops. But now, by then you're going to be talking about different kind of pops because your body will be, you know, making different pops and cracks and sounds.
Oh, that was great. That was good. Man, today I feel like we can start on this really high note, but I feel ultimately like, in the weirdest way, this is going to be such a somber episode for Journey into Comics. Like, what we have planned today, folks, is we're just going to be like, obviously heavy in the comic world this week, because we had Walking Dead 167 come out. You had part 3 of the DC Button story come out. There's obviously other comics that have come out as well. Those are something we're going to focus on today. We're going to close out with spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. At some point in this episode, we're going to be talking about the new Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and tons of details in there, breaking down Easter eggs, different thoughts, different opinions, how we felt. Do we need to see another fucking trailer for another Transformers movie we didn't want? I digress. But anyways, before we get started, Brando, did you do anything fun with your time away from Journey into Comics podcasting?
Let's see here. Anything actually like fun? I played some games. I got Mass Effect Andromeda beat. I think I've put around 70 or so hours into that.
Whoa!
So there's that. I have been watching. I'm all over the place with stuff that I watch. I listen to more podcasts than I do watch shows now. I can, like, without a doubt tell you that. I've listened to a lot of podcasts. I watch a lot of YouTube as well, because YouTube is something that I can incrementally, like, watch or just put on while I'm doing something, you know, where I don't have to have a whole lot of attention to it. I have not watched a single episode of wrestling since the shakeup.
Well, I mean, when we do end up getting to our next episode of Journey into Wrestling, you're not missing much. But anyways,
I read what happens, so I know I'm not missing much. I mean, there's a few things that have happened that I do kind of want to watch, but that's very few and far between there. But man, yeah, I really feel like for the first time in a long time, I'm really like just not interested in what they have to offer. And that's sad because there's so many great guys on the roster, and that's not fair, I guess, to them and for my fandom in them. But I don't really feel like I have the energy to devote to it at the time, you know? Especially when I have things that are just constantly make me just like sigh and shake my head. I have watched some old wrestling stuff here and there. So my network subscription is still getting used at least.
yeah. Did you watch Payback?
Nope.
It was actually like a really solid show. I would suggest watching it. If anything, it will help you. Well, it won't help you. It'll just hopefully, like, same page, not a fan of Roman Reigns. Just to quickly tangent into Journey into Wrestling for a minute here. Not a fan of Roman Reigns. However, he did such a great job of selling in his match with Braun Strowman at Payback. I have to give him some more credit and some more respect than what I have been. Because, I mean, he had to play it like he just got crushed by a fucking being in an ambulance that got tipped over, and fucking the worst bump in the history of wrestling I've ever seen Roman Reigns took, in my opinion, when he was bound to the stretcher and thrown off of that, like, drop, because he literally had nothing to stop himself from face planting. He literally had to land on his fucking face.
It's funny because, like, he's in an ambulance and just gets tipped over, and is that hurt? But then The Rock gets rammed in an ambulance by a semi-truck when the NWO came in, and Hulk Hogan rammed him, and then, like, to get into the ambulance, Hulk Hogan beat him in the back of the head with a hammer.
Yeah.
And then he did that, and then Rock came out the next week like nothing was wrong. He just didn't sell it.
Oh, the end of that Attitude Era, as it were.
Oh, man.
But anyways, I'm looking down and I see it, and I don't think we can avoid it much longer. We got to talk some major spoilers in the Walking Dead comic book world this week. And just come right out and say it. 3, 2, 1, spoilers! Okay, so I'm gonna cut to the fat right now. Andrea is fucking dead.
Yeah, she is. She's
Brando.
pretty dead.
This was a brutal issue of The Walking Dead.
It was really emotion heavy and something that they haven't had for a little while. As far as like this much emotion,
I mean, for me, emotionally speaking, just to throw it out there real quick, even when Glenn died, I don't think I was. I mean, I got misty-eyed at the end of that issue, and the weird thing was, it wasn't in Andrea's death, it wasn't in all the different people saying their goodbyes to her, which I thought was beautifully done. It was in two very little moments in the book. One is everybody coming together and just kind of saying that they've all leaned on each other because they believe in Rick Grimes, that everything's going to be okay. And then Kirkman's letter at the end.
yeah.
Ugh. I mean, it was just, this was, man, what did you think of the issue, to just cut right down to it?
I felt like it was pretty, what's the right word I'm trying to look for here? Pretty stereotypical for what I was expecting of how this is going to go. As far as like, I can hear a lot of this, like some of what is said in this issue was echoed into the show this season by Michonne to Rick. You know.
Yep.
There is some echo there. And by the end of it, you have, so during the issue, you have Rick tearing apart, falling apart, maybe I should say. He's falling apart completely. And at one point doesn't want to go on. But by the end of it, he is empowered and is facing the day again, stronger and renewed. That is sort of kind of where, what's the right term? It's happened before, So not that it's a like negative thing to that, but it's like, okay, yeah, all right, yeah, here we go again. I felt the issue was well done. It was well told, very well written. I also too liked the goodbye panels.
Negan's was my favorite.
That was good too. I like that they did that. I like that Kirkman did that because it's like slowly just showing that he's kind of a part of the group now. And it's like we questioned so much what was Negan's master plan when he started doing all this shit. And it's like it wasn't his master plan, it was Kirkman's master plan of turning Negan into anti-hero.
And everyone being none the wiser.
Yeah, we've been calling Negan Rick's Joker, right? He is like the Joker to Rick's Batman, when in reality, as of right now, it's setting more like he is the Venom to Rick's Spider-Man.
Or the Punisher to Rick's Spider-Man.
Yeah, sure. And actually, I would actually think Venom might be more appropriate because there was such the intensity between the two characters, and even some hatred, and now here they are working together, and even somewhat on the same page. I thought this issue was well done. I'm excited to see. We still haven't seen Beta. And of course, really, there wasn't any room in this story for that, for the last two issues for that. But I'm anxious now that we've got her death behind us to move on and to see where it goes, because Beta's still out there, and the saviors are still out there, and their leader's dead. Which happened in the issue right before this. So,
and not only is their leader dead, and I think we forgot to cover this, but Sherry was the one-time wife of Dwight, and technically Negan. I mean, even though it was different and forced during the Sanctuary stuff, Sherry was married to Dwight. That's why Dwight became the lackey of Negan. That's why he was under Negan's thumb. So there's a weird, moving forward from this episode, it's actually like perfect segue, Brando. It's like a jumping off point too, because there are so many parts to this story that are set in motion. I mean, if you really want to think about it, the story of the Whisperer War happened in 2 days. This is the end of day 2. It was not a long amount of time, or 2 or 3 days probably, when you consider when the hilltop burnt down, and this is the next day after the hilltop burnt down, and Rick has fought with Negan, and there's been a lot of shit happened in not a lot of time, but there's still a ton of shit they've not even touched on. As you said, Beta still out there. Where are you, Beta? What are you doing? Are you just lying in wait? Are you trying to rebuild the Whisperers? Are you just toast? Maybe there is no more Beta, and that's just the story. He's just off in the wind. I doubt it, but you never know. You've got Eugene has contacted these people in Ohio. Well, now there's really an interesting thing, Brando. The people in Ohio know about the group. The group just had Alexandria overrun, and it's pretty much destroyed, as well as the hilltop. Do we see Rick relocate everyone to Ohio?
Yeah, I don't know. Would that be enough? I mean, to just say, okay, let's pack up and go because they have something here that they can rebuild, you know? And I guess that would be the reason not to, is that Hilltop was burnt. Alexandria can be repaired. It can be put back together. Yeah. You know, one question I was wondering is that how is the death of Sherry going to affect Dwight? Because he obviously was not very happy. I mean, it wasn't said, but it was implied by the facial expressions.
I'm guessing you haven't seen the cover of 169 yet.
No.
Or 168 for that matter.
No.
Okay, so 168 really gives no spoiler, and obviously I don't care what's on the cover. It in no way can spoil what could be happening in the story, because the covers can always be misleading, you know, and things aren't what they seem. But to me, when I looked at the 168 cover, it's an all-white cover with people bowing to Negan. And it's called End of the Road, I think, or Road's End or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then 169's cover, quasi-spoiler alert, I guess, is Rick kneeling in a dark, shadowy area with Dwight having a machine gun to the back of his head. So, I mean, misleading. Are we getting a Negan turn out of nowhere just when we thought we were comfortable with him? Is Dwight the one to turn? Is Dwight just upset and threatens Rick, but then, you know, they talk it out because that's how Rick does things? Even in Andrea's death issue that we're talking about, it left more questions than answers, even though it answered a lot of questions. If that made sense.
Yeah.
You know? And, what does this mean for the show? Because now we know, obviously, Andrea is not a part of the show. We also know that Michonne is Rick's current and seems to be outlasting love interest. I mean, we're future tripping here probably to, like, Walking Dead season 14 or some shit. But, or 15 or some shit, you know. But if it does come to the show, is this Michonne's future? Is that how they're going to switch this up? Will they get her out of harm's way and bring Rick a new love interest to destroy? I mean, it's just the parallels are they're too parallel.
I said the exact same thing about whether or not they're going to just, you know, do the same kind of story but just substitute, you know. And that's plausible. But then again, it's like on the show they can really throw some curveballs as far as like who and what they're going to kill and when and where. I mean, if they wanted to, they could kill Negan if they wanted to be just completely different. I think it would be a disservice, but like, you know, it gets to a point of how long is the show going to go and how strictly is it going to stick to the source, you know?
Well, and I think that's where, we've talked about this before, the idea of do they time jump, don't they time jump, is that a plot device that the show can use to relocate Michonne to Oceanside, get her away from Rick, open up a love interest for Carol, and and then that's interesting. Technically, if we're talking about the ways of who's doing what in the comic, Michonne won't go away in the show. It'll be Carol, most likely, who seems to be building towards a love interest with Ezekiel, maybe. Man, I mean, look, we're almost to this first week of March, or first week of May is over. We don't have any more Walking Dead TV, and we're already speculating more and more and more because of this comic. To tell you how good it was, but man, it was just a heavy-hitting issue. It was maybe the most emotional comic I've ever read. Like, honestly, it hit me in the feels a couple different times there. Really choked me up. But It was well done. I can't wait to read 168. That'll be coming out. I want to say the release on that is June 7th. Sounds right. I think it's June 7th. We'll get our next issue of Walking Dead and be able to catch back up to that. Brandon, was there anything else you wanted to add for this issue? If you could rank this issue with stars, let's say.
Out of 5?
Yeah, sure. We'll put it out of 5. Why not?
That's typically what we do here on the JIC ranking system. I give it a good 3 3/4. I thought it was good, but again, I thought it was also rather just kind of by the numbers, but in not in a bad way.
Yeah, no, it was solid. I'm gonna say a 4.1, like 2.5. Not to be oddly specific, but I can't give an amazing issue like that a perfect score or anything because it gave me the feels. If you're gonna have, in my opinion, like a perfect book, will be able to navigate a story, narrate a story for you, and hit you with a little bit of different emotion. And it wasn't like there was really any ha-ha in this issue.
No.
Even the Negan line, calling her hot as fuck, was not in any kind of ha-ha. It was like, man, this sucks. You were fucking hot, though. Just saying. And it's just a throwaway line that's not meant for humor, when Negan has been kind of now become more of a humorous, divisive character. So yeah, I think a 4.125. It's pretty good. That's really all I have for The Walking Dead right now. But before we get to our finale, which I guess is going to definitely be the finale of this episode back, and I'm sure we'll tangent all along the way. I've been reading some DC comics lately, Brando.
That's what you said off air.
Yeah, well, when I want to say it was this time last year, it was maybe around Memorial Day last year, they did the DC Rebirth.
Yeah.
And that led to a lot of characters that had been gone forever being kind of brought back into the DC multiverse through a plot point that I can't really describe. And then they were in the process of telling the story about the Watchmen button. And it was obviously teased that Dr. Manhattan maybe had something to do with forgotten memories, which was the way that they explained losing parts of the canon of DC Comics. He essentially had erased our memory that these events had happened. So now, through that idea, they are able to essentially tap in and say anything they made non-canon by writing something different and changing it has its own separate multiverse point because Dr. Manhattan caused us to forget it, not so much that it didn't happen. It's almost like they're calling themselves out for retconning like a bunch of stuff. So, in that regard, it's super cool, and that was just last year. We already talked about a lot of that stuff. So, they're doing this storyline now, The Button, and it's finally going to happen. Batman's story, Flash's story, the time has come. They're going to tell us almost 1 year later, what's up with this fucking button? What's going on? And I read issues 1 and 2. Issue 3 is out. I haven't had a chance to get it yet. It's on the way in the mail, but I haven't read it, so I can only really speak on 1 and 2. Just to give a quick, fast reaction here. It was really cool storytelling, and it did something that I really, honestly was not expecting, and I was so happy to stay spoiler-free, because I know that there were a lot of different articles like, oh my god, they did what in the Button storyline? And I was like, I can't even click on that. Just don't look. I'm not seeing that right now. Go away. But in reading it, you have Batman in the Batcave. He goes to toss the button down. It hits what looks like it could be part of Dr. Fate's face mask. Dr. Fate's face mask. Can't say that. Which causes a chain reaction event. And all of a sudden, boom, for a tenth of a second, you see, and I thought I was like, myself kind of tripping out. Spoiler alert, you see Thomas Wayne, Flashpoint Thomas Wayne, as Batman. And then he's just in a second gone. And then Bruce is just like, what the fuck? And then there's this, the note that was already there, and that was left for him that he's still trying to figure out who sent it. It all comes together, and out of nowhere. And this was the coolest, honestly, maybe one of the coolest Batman issues. And when I tell you kind of the synopsis of this really quickly, it won't sound Batman, because the Reverse Flash shows up and starts kicking the shit out of Batman, who had just gotten off the phone with the Flash, and the Flash said, "Give me 1 minute, I'll be right there." And literally it counts down in 1 minute of time through multiple panels, more than 60 panels, because some things happen in 1 second. More than one thing happens in 1 second, showing you how fast Reverse Flash is, counting down. And when one happens, you think the Flash is going to come save the day, but he doesn't. Reverse Flash picks up the Watchman button. Poof! He disappears from existence. Poof! And a second later, he's back, but he's fried, and part of his body is missing, and he's just a skeleton, and he says, "I saw God," and he collapses dead. And that's part one. And then part two picks up on what happens with that. The Flash just arrives at the Batcave, and he's talking about his scientifical deductive abilities and what could have killed Reverse Flash, his arch nemesis, the guy that killed his mom. So they go to the Hall of Justice, and they go to a vault that has all different kinds of artifacts, and they bring back one legendary piece of comic history that has been long forgotten. And I'm so excited to share this with everybody, because the cosmic treadmill is back. Barry can use it to travel through time and navigate with the treadmill. So he's going to follow the path and figuring out where Reverse Flash went. He was only gone for a moment's notice in Bruce's eyes, who's recovering from getting the shit kicked out of him. But that could be lifetimes, because the Reverse Flash can travel through time. So Barry goes and follows the trail and starts seeing memories that he brings Batman with him. They start seeing memories they don't remember, and it's actually canon stuff that had been taken away, like stuff like Crisis on Infinite Earths that had been forgotten, or the creation of the Justice League and stuff. And it was just like, oh, that never happened. And Barry's like, no, Bruce, it happened. We just didn't. We just have forgotten because of whatever has happened. And at the end, when the cosmic treadmill explodes, they're in the Batcave, and they didn't go anywhere. And Bruce is like, oh, we just time traveled. This is weird. This is the Batcave 1.0 when I first started out. Wait a minute, I never recovered the gun that killed my parents. How in the fuck is that gun there? And then you hear, I've been waiting a long time to meet you, son. And they're in Flashpoint, Brando. I don't know what the fuck they're planning, because again, I didn't read issue 3 yet, but somehow, some way, they went to they brought it back to Flashpoint, and now Bruce Batman is interacting with Thomas Wayne Batman, and it's fucking weird.
Wow, that's pretty neat. I had heard something about Thomas Wayne bringing the character in, but I think we reviewed the first few of the Rebirth books.
Yeah, we did.
I need to.
So what I need to do is get you the button so you can read it then.
Yeah.
And see it in detail, because it's really cool, artsy too, super artsy.
But yeah, I haven't been keeping up on it. I've been putting my energy. I only have so many things I can put my energy into. I'm a big diehard gamer, so I do a lot of that. But as far as like other books, I don't really read a whole lot. But that sounds really cool. Like as far as like how far they're going with it, and all the different things that they're putting into this.
I feel like Jeff Johns is secretly at the helm, just going, look, we've made so many fucking mistakes. that if we just are honest and say, hey, that's canon, it all happened in some form. We all experienced it in some form. And then they get to bring the Watchmen back from this, which still hasn't happened, mind you. All this is being teased. The Watchmen are still nowhere. We've only seen one of them, and even still, we've not really seen him and what he's capable of. So it's fucking super interesting. It's just like they turned Dr. Manhattan into like the creator, and then there's that could segue into our next topic on the creator, because to get away from this side of comics and to quickly touch on a different side of comics, Brando. I don't know if you know this. Do you know the story of the guy who created Rocket Raccoon?
I do not.
All right, well, this dude who I need to look up his name, I totally failed and didn't save the article. He was a dude working for Marvel, and he was written by Bill Mantlo. Okay, so the creator, Bill Mantlo, created Rocket Raccoon. He was a fill-in writer. If there was an artist or a writer that dropped or a story that didn't come through in time, he would be essentially put on the clock to come up with, as quickly as possible, a cohesive story that got thrown into different Marvel comics. Well, one of those cohesive stories was in, let me see, I want to make sure I say this fact right here. I don't want to screw it up. In Marvel Preview number 7, which had a really boxy looking chick on the cover. I can't think what her name was. But let's see. I'm trying to find the cover here. Of course I can't. Anyways, Bill creates Rocket and goes on to have a really successful career for many years at Marvel, right? Mm-hmm. And then he wants to do something more with his life, so he decided to become a lawyer. And he became a lawyer for disabled people. Like, he just went and did all this like awesome work and like became a boss and helped people get what they deserve. And he was on a run one day and got hit by a hit and run driver, and he was comatose for many years, many years. And then when he snapped out of it, part of him was like broken. He had like lost part of his will to live, until coming around the time they were going to do the first Guardians, and Marvel paid him for all the rights to Rocket, plus a small like percentage of however the movies are going to do or whatever. And that allowed him to go from essentially a live-in nursing home that was just taking care of him because of his condition to now he has his own house next to his brother, who is his caretaker. Oh. And he got to come home for the first time this week, and they actually screened Guardians 2 at his house for him.
That's cool.
Fucking cool, right? Like, uplifting. I mean, it's a sad story to hear something like that happen to someone. It does happen all over the world, crazy, awful shit. But, good that he got to go home, and he loved the first Guardians too. They mentioned that he really responded well and really liked that first Guardians movie. But let's get down to the bread and butter, Brando. Big time spoiler alert time. Today you finally saw Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I saw it on preview night, and I would like your rapid reaction right out the gate. Let's go.
I think it's a good sequel. I thought it was a fun movie. Not perfect by any means, but it was a lot of fun. And feel like it did a lot of the same, but in a good way. And didn't suffer too bad from like sequel, like what you could call sequelitis, where it loses some of what made the original really good. But I also don't feel like this is a situation where you have the sequel that is like a real big step up from the original. because I don't really feel like it was a big step up, but I do feel like it was still pretty good.
This was to me, and I honestly, it was fun. It was a funny movie. It had a lot of great moments. There were a lot of really cool moments. Visually speaking, it was beautiful. It does have a good story and hit you in the feels. It was weird because even though he's a part of the story, it wasn't Peter Quill's quest story, and it wasn't about his redemption this time. Spoiler alert, it's about Yondu's redemption, and that was totally caught me off guard. I had not seen any. I was literally completely going in blind to Guardians, nothing had been spoiled or given away or even been alluded to. I stayed away from all that stuff. Out the gate, the one thing, Brando, I want to talk about to start, it was such a major component of that first movie, and I thought it was the one thing that maybe fell a little flat for me. Soundtrack. There were a couple songs that I did not want to see or hear in that movie. Not that they're bad songs per se. They're just not personally my cup of tea, and I didn't really resonate with that music as much as I did the music of the first movie. The music of the first movie, when I left the theater, I can remember going, fuck, I cannot wait to own that and listen to it all the time. And now I have multiple versions of it where I do listen to it all the time. Even to this day, I listen to the first Guardians soundtrack when I'm doing dishes or something. If I'm not listening to the Game Addicts podcast right here on iTunes and Podbean. Also on YouTube, by the way, and Stitcher and Google Play Music. Anywhere you can get Journey into Comics, I'm pretty sure you can get this awesome podcast called Game Addicts Podcast. Anyways, so if that's not on, it's usually Guardians or something like that. So for me, this movie, the music, a lot of songs were great. Like, oh God, they put The Chain by Fleetwood Mac. That is my favorite all-time Fleetwood Mac song. So like mad super props there. But the father and son Cat Stevens song at the end, huge thumbs down. I think they could have picked a better song to have close out that movie, and they didn't.
See, I thought that song was actually really fitting.
What?
Like, I just felt like it captured the mood. After like the big moment with Yondu, like, to really bring that down, Cat Stevens really has a certain you know cadence and style, and I really feel like, and I felt like that song actually worked. I felt like there was like you said, the Fleetwood song, and then I really can't remember much of some of the other ones. I kind of agree.
Randy at the first.
I kind of agree with you that maybe the music was just a little bit lacking in this one. It just didn't really feel like it helped. I kind of feel like in this one it was a little bit more forced. I'm not sure if like it maybe that's just me. Like, okay, so in the first one they bring it in to where like this is his connection to home, right? And to his mom is this tape that she made him. And then in the second one, it's just like they just keep putting it in because it does help shape like the sound of the movie and of this universe that they've created for it. But at like the same token, I just kind of felt like it was just kind of along for the ride. I did get quite the chuckle at the very end of the movie where he gets a new music player.
Oh yeah.
And it was a Zune.
I've never been so excited in my life, Brando. I marked out because I'm like, I'm a motherfucker that still uses my Zune. To this day, I'm repping Zune, motherfuckers. Shit never went away. Fuck iPod, even though I'm recording this on an iPad. Like, fuck that, Like, it's all about that Zune life. And it was weird because it was a brown 30 gig Zune, and I'm a super nerd that knows that. I have a brown 30 gig Zune as well. However, mine's the Halo 3 edition that's like fucking super rare. You can only get it if you worked in the military, or if you could buy one off eBay from someone who worked. in the military. So that was cool. You stayed for all 4 post-credit scenes, right?
Yeah. Something that you normally do is talk about like what trailers you saw at the beginning.
Oh, man. Okay. Let's just get that done with real quick. Brando, my friend,
Yes.
every fucking movie's a remake. Every trailer was a remake or a sequel. Every single one. Okay? You had a Transformers movie as a trailer last night. Looks fucking dumb. Why the fuck are you trying to tell me that Autobots and Decepticons and shit were back in ancient night times? Fuck off with that. They're doing a new Mummy movie. I wasn't even aware. Tom
You weren't?
Cruise. I had no idea. They retconned Brendan Fraser. What the fuck?
I know
And
that,
it's like a similar story, but different.
Are you saying ratcon or retconned?
Retcon. Sorry, I jacked that up.
See, I thought I might have just misheard you earlier, but like that, like this is Master Splinter who feels really conned by this remake.
Yeah, because it's and then go back to the fucking Michael Bay movie. I'm so sick of seeing that shit. We had a trailer for the Inhumans teaser wasn't a remake. They just did a quick teaser on the Inhumans TV series. I'm stoked about that. We did get a Spider-Man trailer, which was phenomenal.
Wow.
And I'm trying to think.
So far, I've had none of these trailers.
I'm trying to think. There were maybe. Oh God, there was a fucking awful trailer. We were so bummed out. It's the new Chris Nolan movie, and it's some fucking war movie, man.
Mm-hmm.
And like honestly, if I had PTSD, if I had been a soldier, I would have walked the fuck out of that theater. It was a little too real. Like, kudos to you, Chris Nolan. You made a believable movie, but fuck you, Chris Nolan, because you're gonna be fucking people up with that shit, like for real. It was intense. It was only like a 2-minute trailer, and I was whoa, too much.
All right. Was it
trying
like?
to think.
Was that it?
I'm thinking there was maybe one more, but I can't recall what it was. It wasn't anything. It wasn't anything DC Comics related. It wasn't any of the other. Thor Ragnarok. There was a Thor Ragnarok trailer.
Okay.
Did you see it in 3D IMAX or 3D or anything?
Hell, I don't see any fucking movie in 3D ever again.
Honestly, Guardians in 3D was fucking incredible.
I will never fucking watch a movie in 3D ever again.
Bad experience, it sounds.
Dude, my eyes cannot fucking do that shit for that long.
Oh, yeah, because you have fucking... Yeah, no duh. I'm stupid.
Not even, dude. Like the shit literally gives me a headache. It doesn't matter if it's a movie or a 3DS or anything like that. It just... My fucking eyes go cross-eyed. And it's just... I had to spend too much time focusing and I can't get lost in the damn film. 3D, it's over fucking rated. You don't need 3D. It costs way too fucking much to go to a fucking 3D movie, and it's not. I understand it from a movie theater experience. It probably isn't going to go to anytime soon. But hey, that 3D movie or that 3D TVs really took off, didn't they? Because you can totally still buy those. I'm being
not really.
Yeah, no. I was that was completely sarcastic.
No, not at all.
We got a Defenders trailer. We got a movie that is called Valerian, and it's this space thing, sci-fi thing, where you got this teenage kid, or like you got this guy and this girl, and they're like these agents or something, and they wear like the armor and they go around shooting stuff in space. And I'm like, man, this kind of looks like Mass Effect, because they have all these aliens, and all the aliens have come together to like share their knowledge with everybody. And it's like I noticed like the armor reminded me of Mass Effect, and then I'm like, some of the like the aliens didn't look like it, but it was like just the theme of the knowledge, and then all these different aliens, like, this is sci-fi, and I just got done with Mass Effect, and then all the action and jumping around. I'm like, it's kind of Mass Effect-y here. The fucking logo, it looks like the fucking Mass Effect logo. That's when I was like, hold on, what the fuck? If I could find that shit, I will send it to you. We got a Thor Ragnarok trailer. What else did we get? We got the Mummy trailer. We did not get Transformers, thankfully. We got Star Wars.
Oh, we also got Star Wars. I forgot that one. Yeah, because there were only 3 in 3D that we saw, 3 3D trailers, and it was Spider-Man, Star Wars, and Thor.
I'm trying to think if there's another one. That might have been it. I want to say there was another one in there, but I was trying to remember to actually keep a log of these in my head to keep them going. I wish I would have saw the Dark Tower trailer on the big screen. That would have been cool.
That would have been awesome.
I'm very excited about that. I have read at least the first Dark Tower book, and I liked it a lot. I need to get to the other ones, but
the first book was The Gunslinger, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good book. I need to reread it, and then maybe we can do a podcast on that before the movie comes out.
Valerian. Let's see if I can find that. Valerian. Is that a fucking... Well, the pictures didn't help me any because when I Google searched it, it came up with a movie, and then when I went to images, there's a bunch of flowers. Oh, here we go. I'm gonna send this right to you.
Send it on over, Rover.
I have sent it to you, Rat Nizzle.
Okay, I'm gonna... What the fuck? Okay, first of all, I totally see the Mass Effect thing. Like, unmistakable. It also kind of looks a little bit like Todd Black's home. A little bit in that logo, the way the thing like streaks across it. But it also looks like a really like this is the Mass Effect porn that's about to come out. You know, that they can't call Mass Effect, so they call it something else. That's this.
It's just like, okay, so the armor's one thing. I'm not gonna nitpick about the armor because, I mean, it's armor. I mean, you could say that there's like hints of Halo in there too, maybe. But then when you got the streak going through the logo, because the Mass Effect fucking logo has a streak going through it. And
it does.
And it's almost like the exact same. It's,
man, almost from the same point and everything.
Yeah. Because I thought
they're gonna get sued.
No, they're not gonna get sued because it's gonna be enough. It's gonna be different enough. They've gotten this far with it. I mean, also, okay, so when the Mummy was first coming out, or not coming out, when the trailer first started, and they had like that Middle Eastern town and a lot of action, I'm like, hey, this could be like Uncharted. I'm like, oh wait, this is the Mummy. Never mind. Like they even had like the plane in the air with people flying out of it, you know, and I'm getting like really frustrated. Maybe frustrated is not really the word. Just disinterested in films lately. Do you want to guess my hype level for Guardians going in?
Hype level?
Yeah.
You were like a 3 or 2.
Hey, right? Yeah, I was thinking 2. I really have, Like, I wanted to see it. Sure, yeah, man. I really enjoyed the first film. But, like, the only movie this year that I'm like, I have to go see that freaking movie is Star Wars. It's Star Wars. And it's like, that's not to say that I don't want to go see Spider-Man. Of course I do. But, I mean, it's fucking Spider-Man. How many Spider-Man movies have I seen in the last 15 years? It's the same with superhero movies in general. Like, the masses...
My guess is 5.
the general populace really isn't having superhero fatigue lately, but like I sure am. It's like I'm just like not as interested as I was even a year ago to see any more superhero movies. It's like it's gotten to the point of like even on the Netflix front, like the Defenders thing, I want to watch it. I still haven't watched Jessica Jones or Luke Cage or Iron Fist.
Me neither.
I saw the 2 seasons of Daredevil. I always meant to start Jessica Jones, and I never did. Luke Cage, hey, that looks cool. Okay, sure. Iron Fist. Oh, I didn't even realize that was out until like after a week or two that it was. I'm becoming like a real sourpuss, I think, and like in some fronts. I'm just my desire to like movies just aren't interesting anymore to me. They're like, and it seems like they're getting like slowly lumped up into certain styles, certain things. It's like you said with the trailers. They're all remakes, they're all sequels, and it's like you have to be into like the source to really be into it, and it's like. Out of those trailers I saw today, like Star Wars is really the only one that I'm like, oh, yes, I want to see the next chapter of that. I really don't care if I see the next Thor chapter. I'm going to, but okay, sure. I really don't. I don't need to see that damn Mass Valerians. The Mummy, won't see it. Not gonna see that damn movie. Like. I think I never actually sat down and watched The Scorpion King. And then I've seen bits and pieces of like 3, I think. Caitlin really likes them, but I think the first one, that one is the one that had like more of the horror theme for the Mummy, and then the second one was like, let's take it and just go full action movie with it.
Yeah.
Which that's not why I'm not really into it. I'm just not really. Yeah, maybe it was Brendan Fraser, but they replaced him with Tom Cruise, and that's not improving it that much. Shoot,
yeah,
man.
No.
I don't know. Like, I know you're way more into movies than I am, but like, do you kind of feel like with the more current mainstream movies that like we're sort of getting into this thing where it's almost like every year you have your popcorn flicks, you have your action flicks, you have your superhero flicks, you got your kid flicks, and it's like rinse, wash, repeat.
Yeah, well, I mean, and Brando, the thing with that is that honestly, what I'm about to say as a cinephile is a sound, I guess, piece of advice. But if you're going to see it in a theater, that's probably all you're getting is some kind of popcorn flick or a superhero movie or whatever, a remake, if you will. Where it's at, man, are all these hidden gem movies, honestly. Like, just to really quickly riff, over this past, like, break that we just had, I watched some really great documentaries. You don't see documentaries on a fucking big screen at a movie theater, but that's real life. And sometimes real life is stranger than fiction, so sometimes seeing that realness helps you to say, man, while that shit was super real and I can't believe that happened, I need some disbelief. I need some shit that I know isn't going on in our world right now, at least, or other great, there are so many different incredible films that are not mainstream, if you will, and the reason that so many of these mainstream movies are getting all the limelight at the theaters because it's what sells, man. I mean, But as a true like fan of movies, it's not about, at least to me, it's not about the movies that you see at theaters, you know, being the only great movies that exist. Because if you look, you can find some really sweet stuff. I mean, I don't know if I would suggest this to you per se, because you have a son specifically, but there's a documentary on Netflix called Who Took Johnny? And it's a real story about this kid in 1983 that was taken right outside of his house, never to be seen again, and all this crazy shit that comes from it. And like, this was the first kid to ever be on a milk carton. I mean, it just gets it is literally a stranger than fiction story. It's only got 1 star on Netflix. It's one of the best real life documentaries I've ever seen. You know, you can't really trust the Netflix rating. Another 1-star documentary that's amazing, Soaked in Bleach. Without question, you will never, ever, 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 ever think that Kurt Cobain killed himself after watching Soaked in Bleach. I guarantee it.
Did you? Okay.
Because,
you mentioned Kurt Cobain, and that reminded me of a news story that I read today that made me laugh.
Sure.
Quite aloud, and I have to get the article up. Thankfully, it shouldn't take me long because I have to read this thing to you, and this is going to be funny. So Steven Adler was basically, he sang massive praises of Kurt Cobain, saying on Jonesy's Jukebox on via Alternative Nation, whatever that is. He says, quote, Jimi Hendrix turned into Kurt Cobain, so we'll never know after that. We'll see who Michael Jackson turns into. I guarantee you it's going to be a pretty little blonde girl. The host, Sex Pistols guitarist Steve Jones, asked, is it a lizard? To which Adler replies, no, it's going to be a blonde little girl. He's going to be reincarnated, like Jimi Hendrix was reincarnated into Kurt Cobain. And then
Whoa.
Jonesy chimes in, I want some of what you've got. With Steven hitting back, I've got reality. Listen to the songs. Who else played guitar and wrote music like that? I fell in love with Nirvana when I first heard the lyrics, which I still think are brilliant. When he sang, you're so ugly but that's okay because I'm ugly too, I was like, you're a purple genius. Purple brilliant. When I say purple, it's the F word. I can't say it on this show. So it's just purple awesome. Can I spell F-U-C-K? Well, I just did. By the way, Kurt Cobain was born on February 20th, 1967, and Hendrix died on September 18th, 1970. So Kurt was like 3 years old.
3. Yeah.
That is purple hilarious right there. I don't know what he was on or what dude. He sees things completely different than I do. His mind has been purposely and like completely permanently wired completely different than mine.
Well, he's done a lot of drugs too.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what changed the wiring.
Like he's been rewired so many fucking times the wires aren't even sure if they're wires anymore.
Oh man.
You know?
That's so purpled up.
Oh great, that's a new thing on Journey into Comics. Lovely. Anyways, let's get back to Guardians. Now that we've tangented away for a minute. To come back into it, let's talk about the movie itself. It's going to be filled with spoilers. We're going to break down some parts of the movies and just like touch on some of the major moments. First thing, love the dancing Groot at the beginning of the movie. It set the tone, I thought. Aside from opening with a young Kurt Russell on Earth with Peter Quill's mom from the first movie. She's not dead yet. She's also not had him yet at this point in the movie film. But it evolves throughout. And, we get this awesome dancing Groot scene. I don't remember what the song was that they played during that. But it worked. It was really good. and I like that he was just like in his own little world with the music, you know, and didn't give a shit about anything else that was going on when they were fighting the big monster. And then, you know, like Drax fell and like he stopped dancing when Drax looked at him, so it's like a callback to the first movie. It was like the greatest hits of the first movie in the intro of this movie. Quickly things pick up. The Guardians, you know, give up the amulet batteries or the omelet batteries or whatever the batteries are that they stole. They give them up to the Sovereign, and then they get Nebula, and then Rocket steals some of them back, which causes the Sovereign to attack them, and then they get saved by Ego, which I loved Kurt Russell's performance as Ego. What did you think of that, Brando?
I liked it. I liked him in the movie a lot.
Yeah, and Kurt Russell's Ego gives way to a really hilarious, spoiler alert, cameo in the movie, David Hasselhoff.
Yeah.
Which was just beautifully timed. You know, we find out that Yondu and his group of Ravengers has been pretty much excommunicated from the rest of the overall Ravenger tribe because of his dealings for Ego, as it were. We learn later. But the middle of the movie isn't really muddy. It's just weird because they split the Guardians up in a really weird way. You had Rocket, Groot, and Nebula at the time working on the ship. Nebula is trapped because she's a prisoner. They're going to take her back to Xandar, which was mentioned, but they don't go there. You do get to see a ship of the Nova Corps in the movie that is not super recognizable, but you know, there were a lot of really cool like things going on here. So the excommunication of Yondu happens, and then, you know, we find out that Peter Quill is essentially immortal. He can't die. He can control light, and he's part of like Ego. And then, you know, Ego's like, oh, you know, you're my son. I always wanted a son. You're so special. You're so special. And I just didn't, you know, what's the word I'm looking for here, Brando? I didn't see the twist coming with Ego about how he was going to go about doing what he did. So when everything kind of played out, it was just it happened so fast. It was like, you know, and on this, you know, with Ego's planet, we get to meet Mantis, cool new character. Did you like her character? She was pretty fun, right?
Yeah, very interesting. You know, you said you didn't see the twist coming. I felt like part of that movie when they went to Ego's home planet and they were seeing stuff and walking around, it reminded me so much of an episode of Futurama where Leela meets like the only other Cyclops in the universe, and like she goes to their quote unquote home planet, and then like he pretty much uses that to woo her. So I was like, something's up, something's not right. I'm like, this reminded me too much of that episode.
Yeah. So, you know, like I said, you got Peter, Gamora, Drax, Mantis, Ego are on his planet. You know, and it's really interesting because he can call up anything at any moment. And I think you're quick to forget that in the movie when you're watching, that Ego can literally just make anything on the planet happen how he wants. So it's like he shows Peter this huge statue of his mother, and he's just like, look, it's a statue of your mom, dude. I love her so much. You know? But when he, you know, tells Peter, hey, I want to make everything Ego, and then I need 2 people who have the light in them to make it happen, and that's the only way it's going to happen. I can't do it. I'm just like, oh, so he's just like trying to, like, that's kind of a shitty bad guy thing to do, but he doesn't seem like that bad of a guy yet. And then it's like come to light that he's been to all these planets and had all these different partners trying to create what Peter Quill is. and he's the only one that got the light. All these other children didn't, and he killed every single one of them without hesitation. And you realize how fucking evil Ego is. Ego's next level bad. Ravengers, Nebula, the whole thing. It's this great. This movie ends up becoming great teamwork. I love that Nebula escapes from Rocket and Groot and the Ravengers, and is on such a mission from hell to destroy her sister, just to prove that she was better than her sister, that she goes to Ego's planet and just like, she's like, oh, that's a cave I can't fly this thing into. Fuck it, I'm flying in. You know? And then, like, finally, it's just like, you realize that she's just like, she wanted to best her sister. She got that revenge, if you will. Now they can move forward. Now, Brando, I don't know if you're aware of this. We haven't done an Infinity War read through, have we? Or an Infinity Gauntlet read through, have we?
No.
Well, when we do the Infinity Gauntlet read through, the only thing I need to say that's of importance to this movie in regards to Nebula's story, how many times in this movie did you hear Nebula say, I am going to kill Thanos?
A couple different ones, yeah.
She's not wrong. She's gonna, at some point, if they do like they did in the comics, Nebula will wield the Infinity Gauntlet, and she will start to undo the things her father did. And, you know, if that happens, then, I mean, that essentially turns Nebula into another... That's another thing about this movie. All the characters were redemption-based, it seemed. Like with Nebula, she starts to become cool with Gamora. You had the Yondu redemption. You had Rocket learning that he's not as good of a person, I guess you would call him, as he maybe realizes he needs to be, and there's some insecurities there. It was just, in that regard, it was really cool. You know, then you've got stuff like, as we're gearing towards the end of the movie and all these little different storylines are delving in. I tell you, the Groot scene when he was trying to get Yondu's fin was hilarious.
Yes. Yes, it was.
Those are my underwear.
That's
you
my
know?
underwear. That's a desk.
That one made me fall out. That's a desk. And then he gives him the little Ravenger badge and says, "This is on the drawer," you know? And then boom, he's got, you know, Kraglin helps him. So then Kraglin, again, redemption, becomes a good guy, says, "I'm sorry that I made what happened to Mutiny," you know? Because they talk all old school like.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a question.
Answer.
Why did the Sovereign need to hire the Guardians?
The Sovereign needed to hire the Guardians because the thing at the beginning of the movie was going to destroy those batteries, and they were essentially there to protect against that thing because it was going to eat the batteries, become more powerful, and maybe become a problem for the Sovereign.
Okay,
The Sovereign wanted to protect the batteries.
But they have all these resources to follow the Guardians to the depths of hell. But,
yeah, but I mean, they were playing Tetris, Brando.
But can't protect these batteries. I mean, that bothered me. It's especially when they just kept being this thorn in the side. And I'm like, why do they even need to start this movie? Because that's the whole start of the movie is the Guardians doing this job for the Sovereign, and I'm just like, that kind of bugged me. And it's something that we never really get get an actual answer to.
Well, I can kind of answer it to you based on because after the movie, I watched the movie on preview night, Brando, so I've had a couple days to digest the story. You know, you're still within the first 24 hours of seeing it. You've not even slept on the movie yet, as it were. And after going through and now watching different things that are the cast talking about the film and stuff, the Sovereign are a perfect people, but the only thing they have are their attack ships. They aren't equipped to fight something that could actually, like, with how, I mean, look, Guardians took them out. And Ego took them out. All these different things were taking them out because while they're perfect people, they aren't a perfect people in the regards of a perfect battling race. They're not even warriors. So that's the reason the Guardians were hired, is like, we can't fight that thing. All we have are these ships. He's going to attack the batteries regardless, and our ships can't destroy him, you know? So they hire the Guardians. The Guardians betray them. If you betray the Sovereign, it is just set in stone. They're gonna fucking kill you. They have a no tolerance policy for bullshit. And, you know, they went to attack the Guardians. I will say in the movie there's what I will call a set of scenes, because it happens a lot of different places in the movie, where Rocket and the Ravengers and Groot are time jumping through the different portals.
Mm-hmm.
And their faces are going all crazy. That shit had me cracking up too.
Here's another issue that I have with the movie.
Okay.
Exponentially. So Ego killed Peter's mom.
Yeah, that was fucked up to hear.
Okay. We never get an explanation of why he did it. I can piece together why he did it. But why would he ever say it to him? Because he has to know that Peter's not going to stand for that. Like, right when he has him, right? He has him. And then he says it, and I'm just like, why? You know, what? That kind of bothered me as well. Because it's not something that he, like, angrily says. I can piece together the fact that he did it because he truly did love her so much, and that he wasn't lying in that, like, if he ever had to go back again, he wouldn't be, then his cause that he wanted to do would be for nothing. So therefore he killed her, that way he would never have the temptation to go back. But he doesn't say
Correct.
that. But he doesn't say that. And it's
No.
And it's like when you say, like, or when you see, like you said earlier, about how he had so many different relationships with so many different women, trying to get this being created to be able to, for him to use for his own wants and wishes. How can you, after all those, it's like, did he truly love her? You know, can you believe that? I don't know. That kind of bugged me as well.
Well, and I can say I think that, you know, he didn't realize how powerful. Honestly, he didn't realize how powerful Quill was, and in some regard he did, because he goes, when I heard this guy named Star-Lord held a Infinity Stone, like, I knew it was my son. It had to be.
Yeah.
So in some way he knows that Peter is, like, exponentially more powerful. However, when he has him in that moment with the light jabbed through him, and he's telling Quill all these things, and he tells them about how he killed Meredith Quill, you know, he essentially is ready to sacrifice Peter because Peter wasn't on the same side of the cause.
No,
and all he's got to do is just kill him.
Didn't he tell him before he was caught by the light? That's why
right,
he started shooting at him.
He shows him eternity. That's right. Which that's a Easter egg we'll talk about in a minute. But you're right. He shows him eternity and then jabs him.
Well, because he shows him eternity and he explains his whole thing, and then he says that you know, that's why I, like, you know, it killed me to do, you know, to put that tumor in her head. And then Peter goes nuts on him. It's like, why? How could you not know that he would react that way? Because right now he's dangling the carrot in front of him, right? He's trying to basically get him to do this willingly. And basically, like, to say something that shows the idiocy of that, and I don't know, it didn't really match up with the character. Maybe it was supposed to be a flaw, but it just, I don't know. It was like something that made me scratch my head as of why since he's working so hard to get this to happen, would he just throw it out the window and then have to resort to forcing him into doing it?
See, now that we're, well, and maybe that was his hope, was to push Peter to the brink of just like, fine, fuck it, I guess I've got to work with you now, you know? Yeah, maybe he was hoping to break the will of Peter.
I will say that, you know, I didn't have too many issues with the movie and the plot, but those two were the ones that really stuck out to me as I watched the movie. Whereas like why were they hired to begin with when they had so many resources? And yes, you said they have all these gunships, but like if you defy them, they're going to kill you. Somehow they have all this all this willpower and all these resources to kill you, even though they only have gunships. And then the slip up of Ego saying that he did kill his mom and didn't really explain why he did. And then the gaffe of like, well, I'm gonna tell this guy who, like, just earlier, you know, got upset with me when I told him I didn't go back because I couldn't stand to go back to Earth without her, and then he got upset by saying I had to watch her die. No, I don't know. It just...
Man, now you got my brain. Now I gotta go see this thing a fucking second time, Brando. That's the problem with these movies, is like, one viewing, for, in my opinion, is not enough. And I say that because, you know, we're getting close to the end of the movie here. Then there's the grand plan. They've got to get to the center of Ego. They can kill that. They can stop him. The problem is, if they do that, Peter will no longer be immortal. He's going to be giving up the light, because if the light is gone from Ego's planet, the light is gone from anywhere Ego created, you know? And I loved how the little plan played out, except for, of all the different characters to be somber over and shed tears, I was not expecting myself to get emotionally invested in Yondu, but boy did I.
They did a good job. I mean, they really did a stellar job of taking the character that, you know, that they introduced in the first film, and by the end of the second film, you're reanalyzing the motive behind him not delivering him to his father, because out of context you're instantly saying like, well, this guy's an asshole for doing that, when really he was protecting him.
Yeah, and there was that line in the movie with he may be your father, boy, but I'll always be your daddy. And it was just like, damn.
But he wasn't your daddy, I think that's what he said. He may have been your father, but he wasn't your daddy.
That's right. That's how it. Yeah.
And then he's like,
so,
I'm just sorry that I didn't do a good enough job, or something like that.
And in a lot of ways, he did a great job to raise Peter. All the skills Peter has that's made him a great leader of the Guardians is because he was under Yondu.
Yeah, but Yondu also tried to kind of treated him like a piece of shit.
Well, that is true too. And that's just what the Ravengers do to each other. That's what Quill says in the first movie. Mm-hmm. We steal from everybody, you know? Like, you know, and I will say, I watched the first Guardians before we went to the theater to see it, and rewatched it. So I was like super, and I mean, God, the first Guardians is my favorite Marvel movie, so I've probably seen it 80 times at this point. I'll probably watch it after we're done with this podcast, just because I like really, really, really want to watch that dancing scene at the beginning of the movie. But the beautiful funeral scene for Yondu was great. Yondu sacrificing himself to save Quill. Very reminiscent of the first movie and how Quill saves Gamora, except for Yondu does not make it. And he gets, you know, he gets a proper Ravenger's funeral, and they all display their different firework colors for him. The movie ends on kind of a sad note with a character essentially crying. You see, Rocket crying, and that's pretty much the end of the movie. And then we start our 5 or 4 or however many you want to count after credit scenes. Plus, there are a lot of surprise little tiny Easter eggs throughout this movie, and we're gonna blow through them real quick, Brando. If you saw it and I don't call it out, point it out, and if I see it and say it, you might know it or might not. We'll see. We'll talk about it. But first, we'll start with the after credit scenes. You have Kraglin wearing Yondu's fin, trying to control the whistle arrows. Not that he's doing a bad job, but he's trying. It's not really going great, and then he stabs Drax in the chest with one. Yeah. And that was pretty hilarious, because he's like, ow! And Kraglin's just like, oh shit, I better go. We have an interesting post-credit sequence with something from earlier, which we didn't discuss, the Stan Lee cameo.
Yeah.
And this is the cameo to end all cameos, essentially explaining that he is one of the agents of the Watchers. He essentially has been the same Marvel character, the same character in every cameo he's ever done across every kind of Marvel movie, regardless whether or not it was owned by Marvel, Fox, Sony, or otherwise. All his cameos are the same dude. That means that they literally, without saying it directly, and I'll talk about this in a minute because I want to talk about the where do we go from here. The really funny part about this is that it tied all of those movie verses together.
Yeah.
One little string just tied all those worlds together. Now, at any point, they could be like, oh, well, the Tobey Maguire wasn't really the Spider-Man we thought we were looking for. He was just one of the Spider-Men. Same with Andrew Garfield. Same with the X-Men, or whatever they recast or redo, or Fantastic Four or whatever. We have a post-credit sequence. I feel like, now this is one I don't think if you directly knew about or knew what they were showing, but Stallone's team that they put together. Do you know who that was?
I didn't at the moment, but then I saw a post about it on Instagram, and then I'm like, oh, that's cool. That was a team in the comics of Guardians. You had Stallone's character and the other people. They were the captains, and were a team of Guardians of the Galaxy at one point.
Correct, and I'm gonna read those off to you. So the original Guardians team featured Yondu.
Yeah.
So he's the one constant. You had Starhawk, which is Stallone's character, which is this. My phone is really all of a sudden not wanting to load this. So you had Charlie 27, that was Ving Rhames. And you have... I hate this shit, Brandon. Every time. I literally clicked on this article and then my phone glitched out. Oh, there it goes. So you're going to have...
Is that Martinex?
Oh my god, just give me the list. Charlie 27, Martinex, yeah. You've got Centauri 4. Oh no, that's the planet, sorry. Yondu. But one of those people, I think it's Korvac, is actually if I remember right, Korvac is actually trained by Doctor Strange in the future to become a Sorcerer Supreme. He was the red one that was in that scene, the weird red guy. He calls up a spell that's from Doctor Strange, which you wouldn't notice, and it's also got two thumbs up emojis as part of his spell. You also had that little computer face thing. I think that was Martinez. But that was Miley Cyrus.
Mainframe.
What up?
That's mainframe.
Mainframe, that's right. Here we go, Team's history. So... You know what? I don't like this sometimes because I just want a damn list, and they won't give me a list of the team. It's all this reading. Martinez, Yondu, Starhawk, Aletta, and Nikki, and Mercury. And then we have Mainframe. I'm doing a bad job about talking about stuff I probably don't know very much about. But I did know when they showed Charlie 27, I recognized who those characters were. I just couldn't, I've not read the original Guardians that came out forever ago. The next end credit scene we have is the last of the movie, is a teenage Groot.
Yeah.
And he's got his branches all over the damn floor.
And leaves.
And it's in that moment that Peter Quill is paralleling being a father himself.
I like some of the inflection, like the whole I am Groot.
Or
that teenage angst.
Yeah, just like sarcastically talking to Quill, and playing video games, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Also, we didn't talk about Pac-Man had an Easter egg appearance in this movie.
He joked about making
the statue,
and then when they were the big epic fight scene between Star-Lord and Ego, and they were gonna collide with each other, and they surrounded themselves by like the rock and earth of the planet to collide. Like Ego went into a fist or like some sort of battering ram, and then Star-Lord turned into a fucking Pac-Man.
Waka, 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 waka.
That was great. I liked it a lot.
It was. Now, there are some other interesting Easter eggs, I guess you'd say. Howard the Duck is in the movie.
Yeah, again.
Which is cool. Again, by Seth Green. Now, this is something that's when I saw the movie, which again I've only seen it once. When I saw this, I was like, I know who that is, but I know that face. Like, who is that actor? And actually, on Earth, when the terraforming starts happening from Ego, there's an old dude in a car driving away from it.
Yeah.
And I think the car gets lifted up by the black stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
You know who the old dude was? It was Peter Quill's uncle in the first Guardians movie in age makeup to look like he was old.
Oh.
So he was literally the same character on Earth, just living his normal life, having no idea where Peter disappeared to,
Coinkydink.
Quinkydink. Again, as I said, you had Meredith Quill from the first movie returning, this time with a lot more hair. You had, let's see, I'm trying to think of all the Easter eggs. Oh, we missed a post-credit scene. The Sovereign, Aisha, is upset, and she's not got her headdress on anymore, and she looks defeated, and the lady comes in and tells her the High Council wants to speak with her. They're not really happy about how things went. And she's like, it's okay. I figured out how to destroy the Guardians. I've created this perfect weapon. And then we see the cocoon that is going to be Adam Warlock. I'm so fucking excited. It had been long rumored that they were not going to put Adam Warlock in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So to see that they actually finally made that plunge was great. And that sets up Guardians 3. By that time, he'll have hatched. He'll be a bad guy. He'll be able to become a good guy before the movie's over. Spoiler alert to those of you who don't know about Adam Warlock's storyline. Trying to think of more Easter eggs that we see in the movie here, Brando. You get... Oh gosh. I'm full of fail right now because there's a lot of Jimmy Urine from Mindless Self-Indulgence, the lead singer of Mindless Self-Indulgence, was one of the Ravengers with the long black hair that was like one of the earliest to bite it when Yondu was killing people with that thing. A lot of different callbacks to the first movie. Obviously, the Walkman from the first movie, it ends up getting destroyed. We talked about the Zune, which was awesome to have in the movie. I don't think I have anything else as far as Easter eggs are concerned. I feel like there are a lot more that I missed, but were there any that you saw?
I think we pretty much kind of nailed them all. I mean, there might be some more, but again, that's probably more for like a second or third viewing to get them all.
Yeah, I'm like, in the moment, I'm sitting here like, oh my god, I thought I had more to list off as far as little Easter eggs.
So, score out of 5.
Out of 5, it was a 4.75 easy.
I would give it a 4.
Well, here's the thing that I can tell our audience why there's such a big... Usually you and I are pretty close to the money when we're ranking movies. Here are a couple things that play into this movie having a higher rank for me versus you. One, it's my favorite Marvel series, as I said. While it's my favorite Marvel series, it was my most anticipated movie of 2017, aside from Star Wars, which I'm not going to count because it's like an opus movie that obviously I'm anticipating, but we're way far away from that. This movie, I was super anticipating it. I couldn't wait to see it. I got to see it. I didn't see any flaws in the movie, honestly. Oh, I do remember one of my Easter eggs that I forgot. And it's super small. You might not have even seen this one. But did you know that Grandmaster from Thor Ragnarok was in Guardians of the Galaxy 2?
I didn't see him, no.
You wouldn't have seen him because he's not in the movie itself. He is peculiarly in the credits. When the credits were happening and all those different characters were dancing in the bubbles on the sides,
Yeah.
he's one of them. Blink and you'll miss that moment. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, what the fuck? He wasn't in the movie. And I was like, oh my god, the final post-credit scene is going to be about Thor. I'm so excited. And then it wasn't. It was the Groot thing, and it was so awesome. Now, I will say, Brandon, on the flip side of this, I actually have a thought that is past Guardians and a little bit past the Infinity War that we'll get next year and the year following. But I know who is going to be the next big bad of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Who's that?
Oh, dude, it's so smart. Who's bigger than Thanos?
Galactus?
Yes, exactly. So here's my thought. Marvel's been hush-hush. There's not been any new rumblings about a possible Fantastic Four movie. Actually, technically speaking, several characters that were in Guardians, including the Watchers, are property of Fantastic Four. The Watchers specifically debuted in Fantastic Four 13, so they are 100% proprietary to the Fox franchise. Have never been mentioned, were never used, okay? You also have other minor characters throughout the movie who have ties to that. Adam Warlock, not as directly, but some people argue he might have had some movie rights stuck to Fox, and that's why Marvel wasn't going to touch him. What does that mean? Well, if that means they made a deal, if that means the deal is already done and they aren't bringing the deal up, they're just going to keep it hush-hush, it's because they don't want us to know that at some point, maybe at the end of the Infinity series, or maybe at the end of Guardians 3, because that'll happen after Infinity War, Infinity Gauntlet, maybe Galactus will not show up, but maybe Silver Surfer will, setting in motion that Galactus is coming. And then you have time to build a whole new kind of team.
Yeah.
You can bring the Fantastic Four in as parts of the Avengers, Doctor Strange, because Benedict Cumberbatch will still be pretty early on. Tom Holland is Spidey. The Guardians will still be young enough to do it. that gives people, they're not going to focus on where the fuck is Robert Downey Jr. or where's Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth. Those dudes can technically be gone. And maybe Hemsworth not so much. He's still pretty young and can do a lot of this stuff. But I don't see Robert Downey Jr. at 51 now, I think, or 50. I don't see him doing this for many, many, many more years. And I just remembered another shitty trailer we saw before Guardians. That was a remake or a sequel. Pirates of the Caribbean and Ted Tell No Tales.
Caribbean. I like that.
Yeah.
We saw, I just remembered that, like, and it was Kingsman.
Ooh, how'd that look?
Meh. It didn't make me want to go see it, but.
Did you see the first Kingsman?
No. I had no desire.
It's hilarious, actually. It's really fun.
That had the dude from Star Trek in it.
The dude from Star Trek.
The dude that plays Kirk in the new Star Trek movies. He was in the first Kingsman, right?
I don't think so. No, it's like Samuel L. Jackson, some older dude, and then some tiny younger dude that's got a weird name is the lead of Kingsman. Maybe he is in Star Trek. I don't know. I only saw the first two, so
Kingsman,
the most
Secret
recent
Service. Well, I didn't see Sam Jackson in that movie at all. Yeah, you're right. It's not him. What was I thinking of that had that kid in it from Star Trek? That's going to bug me now. Chris Pine is the kid that I'm thinking
I know
of.
why you Chris Pine was in the Wonder Woman movie, my friend.
Well, I know he is, but that's not what I'm thinking of.
Oh, okay. Shit. I tried. Yeah, I tried. Whatever. You know? But I think that the next thing they need to do is set up a big cosmic thing. If Thanos is your first cosmic baddie, it seems super smart that the next place you would go is Galactus. I mean, he's bigger. I mean, by that time, we're going to be into, like, Phase 6.
Jeez. It's crazy to think about that. Yeah, I you know what? I just looked at them on IMDb, and none of these movies are matching up to what's in my head.
Weird.
So, like the only thing that might be close is Jack Ryan, Shadow Recruit, but I don't even think that's it. Maybe I was just putting the wrong face on the wrong guy when I thought that maybe when I saw a trailer or something, I'm like, oh, hey, that should be that guy.
That's that dude. That's okay.
That's that dude from that thing.
Honestly, man, I love this movie. The only thing I dock it for is soundtrack. A couple songs were a little bit off. Can't wait for the future of Guardians. Can't wait for another viewing of this movie. I don't really have much else to say in that regard. I will say I want people to hear it here first. I'm going to be giving a pop vinyl prediction, and I'll explain this really quickly before we get off air, Brando. So, the new Guardians of the Galaxy line came out. It starts with pop number 198, Star-Lord. There's a Chase variant of Star-Lord. There's Drax, Gamora, Rocket, Nebula, Mantis, Ego, Taserface, and then there are a bunch of specialty pops that are from that line. They had your 10-inch life-size Groot. You had your Groot wearing the Ravenger's gear, holding the little Ravenger thing that Yondu gives him. Rocket with Groot on his shoulders. Rocket standing, holding two guns. Just a bunch of different pops, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the numbers go from Taserface 206 to Groot 208. There is no 207 pop. That leaves for what? A bunch of speculation, right?
Oh.
Well, here's what my speculation is, Brando. San Diego Comic-Con always releases a big, super cool, awesome pop that's hard to find every year at SDCC. This year, it's either going to be a metallic Aisha from the Sovereign for Guardians, or it's going to be Yondu, since he does not have a pop for this run.
There you go. I mean, if he doesn't, maybe do one with like the new red, like the red mohawk thing.
Yeah, his Finn.
His fin. That's it. I can't remember what the hell it was.
Just think Shark Boy.
Oh crap.
Old
Stone,
TNA reference, right?
Stone Cold Shark Boy. You remember that?
Yeah, I do. Fuck yeah, I do. You walk out to the ring like Stone Cold. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Didn't he make the stunner his finisher, too?
Yeah, and he
Or
started.
didn't they call it like the shark stunner or something?
I can't. Yeah, and he was like, "Stone Cold Shark Boy is gonna have a couple of shark wisers."
Yeah, I forgot about that. Fuck. Oh, hell yeah. Well, Brando, I think that does it for this week's Journey into Comics.
I think so too. It's good to be back into the thick of things. Next week, looking at maybe reading wherever we left off. Maybe I'll read. Maybe what we'll do next week is read like the Button, and then
First 3 parts of the Button.
and then
By next Wednesday, I think part 4 will be out, so we might be able to read 4 parts and then do a 4-part review. I like that.
There you go.
Heard it here first, folks.
Heard it here first, folks.
Also, can't wait for new Spidey. I'm so excited. I think it's going to be awesome. I know it's just another Spider-Man movie to most people, but Spidey's my favorite superhero from Marvel, so I can't wait to see him. And see, hopefully it's much better. It seems like overall the movie already has a better feel about it than the prior 2 series, so I almost called them both trilogies, but the second one, the third one.
Nope, didn't get that far.
This is weird. It's the 6th Spider-Man movie, but it's the first in a new of 3 different possible, you can't even call it trilogies, series, I guess.
Yeah.
The first one is the only one that had a trilogy.
Yep.
I'm excited, though, that they're bringing an old-school villain. Actually, 2 old-school villains. Both Vulture first appeared in Amazing Spider-Man #2, Adrian Toomes, and Shocker appeared in 46, Amazing Spider-Man. But last thing I want to say before we go, Brandon, as you can always do, check us out on all our different social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Podbean, Google Play Music, iTunes, Stitcher, Journey into Comics, wherever you can find us. We've got some big things in the works on our side, folks. I will say Guardians right now, as of yesterday, which was Friday, because now today's Sunday, because it's super time winding right now. We've recorded across 2 days. We've never done this before, Brando. I don't think. We started recording on Saturday. It's now Sunday. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Guardians in the first 2 days, Thursday preview night and Friday, is already at $75 million. 2 days. That's
nice.
Domestic only, not counting global.
Nice. We'll have a recap on that on the next episode to see where it ends up.
Sounds good, bro. Well, it was great talking to you. I'm so glad to be back into the podcasting world. Can't wait to jam on this new episode. If there's anything else to add, Brando?
Not at all, man. We will see you next week.
All right. I'm Nate.
I'm Brando.
And this is Journey into Comics. Thanks for listening to episode 138. Later.